in your emergency stash for if anything ever happens and you need an emergency antibiotic, the pharmacy is out, or you can't see your regular doctor, or whatever the case may be.
Oh my child, I know.
Today I'm gonna be out in the greenhouse. I've got some things to move around. But before I get out there, I want to talk to y'all real quick about 3 things that I think sometimes get overlooked when it comes to survival. And they're so easy. 3 easy things that I think will make a huge difference, maybe when the world is just totally going crazy, that you need to know. The first one on my list would be foraging. A lot of people don't think about foraging. There's so many natural resources out there. A lot of what we have done is brought our natural habitat into our yard. Here's one, for example, raspberries. Not only can we use raspberries, but also raspberry leaves. They're very beneficial, even medicinally. So those are some of the things that I've taken and studied. You need to know. We have raspberries already coming up on those trees. I have a whole nother section out in my gardens that are up here that are just growing raspberries. They grow wild. Another thing I wanted to show you is things like elderberry. Elderberry is huge. Now the berries themselves here, this is where you have to be careful with foraging. The berries themselves on elderberry are not edible to eat right off of the bush. But once cooked, the juice that produces from that is actually what I use almost on a daily basis around our farm. What I did is I went out in the woods, see my little stick cutting right there? I took that, made a cutting, brought it into my yard. Now I will quickly show you my mother plants that are years old that I took things from our natural habitat here and brought it in our yard. Elderberry was one of those things that I foraged. It's right here behind my chickens, and this is me standing up next to it. It is absolutely huge and it is loaded. There are so many other things that you can forage. Mushrooms, berries. Now again, I have things like strawberries. There are all kinds of different berries and edibles in the woods that people just don't think about. These are just a few of the things that I have taken from our woods and brought up here. Here's another one, for example. I brought a muscadine. I found one under a tree out in the woods, and I dug it up and put it in a pot for my greenhouse because I will replant this in my yard. So foraging is a huge thing that I think sometimes people will forget about. We have been given by our Creator so many different wonderful creations of fruits and berries, and for some people nuts, and there's so many different types of things. Tree bark. The ground gives us so much, and we need to be good stewards and learn how to use those things. Now we are still learning a lot because it is so much to learn, but foraging is a huge thing that would be amazing survival knowledge for if we ever needed that. So I'm bringing y'all back up here for tip number 2, where I was showing y'all earlier my raspberries are growing under this crabapple tree, where I was showing y'all back here. Herbs and herbalisms kind of goes along the line with foraging. You would be able to use what's in your area, what grows well in your area or your zone. I have a lot going on back up in here. Yarrow, chamomile, tarragon, lemongrass, echinacea, or some people call it coneflower. We have onions and garlic. So many different things back here that have grown that would fall in the herbalism category. Now, not only are some of these edible for food, they can also double as medicinal medicine as well. That would be my tip number 2. I think that so many people tend to forget about is using herbs and herbalism. amazing classes and studies. I'm actually going to be participating in my first summer quote class or study, however you want to say that. This summer I'm going to be signing up under Growing Up Herbal. Megan has some amazing information out there. She does not have a YouTube channel, but she has a blog and an amazing website full of information. She's very, very, very knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable into specifics than I am. I just want to give y'all a broad, general idea, not as much how to use, but knowing that herbalism is a key to survival. Start learning those skills, because if worse come to worse and you had something to control fever, something to build up vitamin C, if you have those and you know at least some of the basics, herbalism can take you a long, long way in survival. Some of the other things that I have growing in my greenhouse this year, one that comes to mind is ashwagandha. That is another amazing herb. Just dive off in there, learn those, start learning those. Pick one or two or a few at a time. Check out Megan's website. She has an amazing website, like I mentioned to y'all earlier. Pick up one or two things at a time, and I think it'll surprise you actually just how easy learning some of these things are. One of the beautiful ones that I forgot to mention is calendula. This is some that I had planted from the greenhouse that I am up-potting because it desperately needed it. And right beside me is plantain. I actually used some of this plantain plant on a burn that one of my kids got. So plantain. Third tip I would say is always have some things. Right now, over-the-counter stuff is still accessible and easy to get to. You can utilize cough syrups and cough medicines if you've learned things like how to control fever or how to build up your immunity, but maybe you haven't studied the respiratory section of herbs yet, or maybe you don't have an abundance of those in your area. Whatever it may be, while there is still stuff over the counter, another amazing way for survival would to be get your wound care, good cleaning supplies. Go ahead, pick up some cough syrups, cough medicines, fever controls, anti-diarrheas. Have you a little stock of that? Probably one of the most important things I would say along my lines of thinking, and I am very appreciative that modern medicine has come a long way. That is a good thing. We do not abuse that. We try to always use natural first, if at all possible, but sometimes those things fail. Aiden is reading a study on John Wesley. His mother had 19 children. 10 of those children died before age 2. So I am very thankful that we have modern medicine nowadays. That is a good thing, and to abuse it. But with all that being said, antibiotics are an amazing thing to have on hand as well. If worse come to worse and you had to use an antibiotic, have those on hand. Now you may be thinking, I can't just go to the doctor and get antibiotics prescribed to put back up in safety. You're exactly right. However, Jace Medical is an amazing company. You guys reach out to them, and down in the description we'll attach their information, their links, everything you need to know. You can submit an order to them, get antibiotics to put up in your emergency stash for if anything ever happens and you need an emergency antibiotic, the pharmacy is out, or you can't see your regular doctor, or whatever the case may be. Again, always use those responsibly and don't abuse antibiotics. That is huge. But if you ever needed something in an emergency situation where it was a life or death situation, you got a cut, the wound got infected, and you needed an antibiotic for that, y'all be sure to reach out to Jace Medical and get some antibiotics in your emergency stash. So that is definitely my 3 main things I would say that a lot of people just don't think about for survival is there is so much foraging that you can do. You just need to grab a book or two, flip through those, even if it's just a few pages a day, learn those. Don't forget about your herbs that you can grow. A lot of them are very easy to do, very easy to grow. As simple as a echinacea flower, it comes back year after year. You can do everything with it, from the flower, the stem, the leaf, and even the root. Dandelions is another one that comes to mind, where people just think those are weeds, and they're not weeds. They are not weeds. There's so much you can do with dandelions. So don't forget your herbs. It's providing food all the way down to medicine. And 3, while there's supplies, plenty of supplies in the store right now, go ahead and get you some things to put in an emergency container. Put it up in the attic, put it in your basement, put it under your bed, put it under your bathroom sink, wherever. And get some antibiotics on hand. Don't want to abuse those. Use them responsibly. But if you ever needed an antibiotic that could be a life or death situation, where you ended up with strep throat or a bacterial wound infection, whatever the case may be, you have that on hand. They are a super easy company to work with. You guys will really like them. So y'all be sure to get in touch with Jace Medical if you have not already. Happy homesteading, y'all.